I was just looking at Haynes' slides. It's a very detailed slides, fitting for an engineer. However, my slides would be different, Mr. Haynes. My slides are the type that if you copy and bring it back, there's nothing much you can get from it. You have to have me explaining the slides. Okay, I'm going to talk about the commercialization ecosystem. Whether, what I'm trying to say is that because this is an MTDC conference, and because, we are sharing experience about what we have done, so the alternative title, see? You cannot be in commercialization without knowing how to market. So I discussed with Mariamon, let's give a good title, not mentioning MTDC, and then give an alternative title. So the alternative title will be our 20-year adventure in working together. This is key. Because when we talk about ecosystem, it has to be about working together. And I think this is one that we have stressed this morning with the banks. The government of Malaysia has a lot of funding programs. There are agencies managing funds, there are banks managing funds. But if the funds are not made available in a contiguous, in a connected manner, actually the ecosystem is not whole. So what we're going to do is that, or I'm going to do today, is that we're going to share a little bit on what have occurred in the commercialization ecosystem for the past 20 years, but through the lens of MTDC. And please bear with me that, sometimes I will have to praise myself. Okay. Of course, when we talk about ecosystem, there are many, many players, and we're just one of them, right? So I'm going to Right, so MTDC was incorporated on 2nd of March 1992. And operation started on the 1st of October 1992. So just about 20 years and 1 month ago. And why MTDC was formed was because in 1986, the government has started what was called then the IRP, Intensification of Research in Priority Areas. That Malaysia plan was the first plan when the Malaysian government allocated separate budget for R&D. So from 1986 to 1992, there was a lot of research funded by the government. I think it was initial funding was 400 million, which produced results, and these results remain in the lab. So after looking around, there were studies by the MPKSN then. There were also, I read when I joined MTDC in 1993, reports by merchant bankers. They thought that let's form an intermediary organization to foster commercialization of public sector research. So MTDC was formed specifically to be an interfacing agency to work with universities and the industries to commercialize public sector research. The idea is always very good. And I always tell my workshop participants that business plan is always very good on paper. And that was what we thought then. We thought that, well, let's look at Korea and use the Korean example. Let's form MTDC as a venture capital company. Let's give them some money. Let's do a private-public sector partnership. Let's tell MTDC, go and do early stage investment. So that was what had happened. And before I move on, I just want to say that when we talk about commercialization is not an individual sport. Commercialization is a team sport. It requires players to work together to achieve a common end. And this is something that, if you look at this called Sharpe report, even as far back as in 1967, people were only talking about commercialization and what it entails in the ecosystem. So you need to have learned, feel, understand, and appreciate. I think 20 years ago this was very, very difficult. I still remember I went to see a university vice chancellor to talk about commercialization of research. And his questions were that, Alim, you want to commercialize these research results from the scientist. What will happen to my other lecturers in geography, in sociology, in pengajian Islam. This is not equality, right? And what is going to happen to my work in terms of moving the frontier of knowledge? So 20 years ago, it was really a challenge to talk about commercialization. So when we talk about ecosystem, just a little bit on the biology of it, since I used to be a biology student, but I have never been a biologist. So an ecosystem is something like this, right? You have many players within an ecosystem working towards equilibrium. And of course, lately people have talked about commercialization ecosystem, where it can be also incubators, accelerators, and many other programs. And actually, if you look at a mature ecosystem, this is what it will look like, right? But the challenge in an ecosystem like this is not so much that, like a country in Malaysia, we don't have it. The challenge is actually to make sure the players in all this arena works together to the common end, which is to support here the entrepreneurship. And this is what we are doing today. We have invited Mr. Hain to share his experience, because entrepreneurship is actually key. And entrepreneur is the one who will dream big and take risks. Not the policymakers, not the funders, not the CEO of MTDC. It is the entrepreneurs that will have an idea, will pursue a dream, will work towards achieving the dream. Okay. So again, I was thinking my chairman won't be here, so I thought it was going to be a bit lighter presentation. So, so when we were formed in 1992, I can tell you it was a very lonely experience. When we were formed in 1992, the ecosystem was still being developed. There was no other venture capital company doing early stage. There were other companies doing expansion stage. But MTDC was the first venture capital company specifically mandated to do early stage investment. Very good objective, very noble, very, how do you say that, admirable, but very impractical. In 1992, we were formed as a VC company to invest early stage. In 1993, oh sorry, by the way, this is not me, okay? I just used the photo to show that we were just a baby then, okay? We were a rather cute baby because we have money, 52 million of it, okay? But we were still a baby learning the business, and it was a rather lonely only child, okay? So, when you were formed as a VC company, there were a few things that need to be in the ecosystem before a VC can function effectively. First thing is that a VC invests in early stage companies. That presupposes an environment where companies are being created and there are deal flows for the VC to look at. 20 years ago, if you want to do early stage investment, that is a tough ask. Because in the US, the VC can look up to 1,000 deals before they invest in one company. MTDC, sometimes we look at 10 deals and we invest in 7 of them. So it was a tough ask. So when we want to talk about venture capital, there must be deal flows. When we talk about deal flows, there must be entrepreneurs. And when we talk about entrepreneurs, there has to be an ecosystem which nurtures, support the creation of entrepreneurs. So when we talk about commercialization, then it was a really challenging thing. So when I was saying just now, like the venture capital, because VC is venture capital and also vice chancellor, so I sometimes mix the two. Okay? So when I say just now vice chancellor, this is about policy. This is what just now I said, the field, the appreciation, the institutionalization of the idea of commercialization in organizations like university. So there has to be a policy that is in place so that commercialization is a given. It is something that is supported all the way across the organization, up and down, left and right. So if this is not available, if it's not in place, then you will have challenges to get entrepreneurs to come to universities or RIs to look at the technologies. When entrepreneurs have problem accessing the technology, they don't form companies. When they don't form companies, what is MTDC supposed to do? So, policy on commercialization was one of the important things that we have worked with in our past 20 years in commercialization of research. And of course, when we talk about financing, venture capital is only one instrument. I don't have data for Malaysia, but if it is in the US, venture capital only fund 3% of all new companies. 3%. But sometimes when we plan, that's why I said just now, when the idea of MTDC was planned, it looks like it's a soft all kind of organization. That's for MTDC, we solve the commercialization problem. So there must be a range of financing options for entrepreneurs across the value chain. And this is also what we have done today, because we want to link our program to the banks, because the bank will be the larger financier. And infrastructures, where do the companies are located, where can they be located, what services they can have, and the general awareness of commercialization. So 20 years ago, all these were in various stages of development. So this is Mariamah when she was small. It was a really tough work, right? It was tough to operate in an ecosystem where the other components are not available. But I take a note from Mr. Hing's point just now. Thankfully, the government decided to form MTDC as a private company. We do not depend on operational budget to survive. Because of that, we have to think big and think forward and change and innovate. So, while Mariamah did cry a little bit when she joined MTDC, okay, because there's all this problem. Oh, sorry, I just want to show now, these are the scruffy kids that has developed after that. MTDC is still looking scruffy because we are still growing, right? But now we have AMP, MDV, MEFCAP, and what have you, so we have a cohort, okay? Let's skip this because I don't want to embarrass the chairman. Okay? So, when we perform as a VC company, it entails several things. One is that as a VC company, we are a private company. As a VC company, we have to find our own revenue. As a VC company, we operate like any other entrepreneurial endeavor. Okay? Because of that, we walk the talk. When we talk to entrepreneurs, the empathy is real. When we say that we understand the commercialization challenge, the understanding is real. Okay? So because we are ourselves a private company. Right? So you see there's I put a slide there, slightly pregnant man. Sometimes people talk about commercialization. The way they talk, it's like they understand. It's like a man saying to his wife, I understand how it is to be pregnant. Right? But both the wife and the man knows that the man is lying. So it is similarly to commercialization. A lot of people can talk about commercialization. They can talk about magic formulas. They can talk about low-hanging fruits. They can talk about shortcuts. But can they walk the talk? Have they faced a situation where they have to generate revenues? So in our case, and I think most of our companies here in this room will attest to, that when we, MTDC, say that we understand the problem of fundraising, we say that based on experience. If we say that we understand the challenge of marketing a product, we say that from experience. If we say that there is a huge difficulty to raise funds, we say that from our real experience. So the empathy level, the understanding, the appreciation, the feel, as I mentioned in the Shapir report, is there. That is why when we move forward, as I will share with you, we try to innovate as much as possible to grow the ecosystem, to enable the entrepreneurship to flourish and to create more Mr. Heng, which will do 200-300 million a year since I'm on the board. I will say Globetronic is one of the best companies that I have seen. Okay, so I always say to people who come to our workshop that nowadays it's quite, a given. Most venture capitalists will tell you this. In theory, when MTDC was formed, MTDC was asked to do early stage investment. And the government, quote unquote, invited several companies to form MTDC. When MTDC was formed, the government, via Khazanah Holding, owns around 40% only. There were other 10, 11 shareholders from the private sectors. And the idea is, in theory, MTDC will fund early stage company and make money from the exit. Good business plan, right? Good idea, very noble. But in practice, this is not workable. It's not workable. It is not workable for a venture capital company in an developing ecosystem. A venture capital model is based usually on a 10-year cycle. You invest year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5 to 10 you nurture your company for exit. But if the companies are not created in high number, do not have enough deal flows, do not have an IPO market for non-revenue companies or companies with low profit track record, do not have an active M&A, venture capital as an instrument for commercialization of research will face a very, very challenging situation. That was, just now I put the photo of the crying baby. It was tough. In fact, with 52 million in 1992, if you were to invest all the money in early stage, by 1993, all of us will be out of a job because there is no operational cash flow to fund the operation of the company. All the money will be in these startups. So, fortunately, we were formed as a company, as I said, and we were formed as a VC. We then have to innovate. So the more realistic expectation is actually for a company in a developing ecosystem to invest across the value chain. You can do some early stage investment. You will have to do more expansion stage investment like what we did with electronic. And you can also do some mezzanine stage investment for you to get the cash flow. And I can tell you this is very important for business plan, and we have always shared this, that a business plan is good only before you get going. The moment you start, you have to change the plan. And here what we have done is actually we immediately, almost, in October we were in operation. By the next October we changed the business plan. From early stage investment to investment across the value chain, because you need to generate cash flows. And you have to be innovative. MTDC formed alliance with Hamburg and Quest, based in San Francisco. And we form a lot of funds, Nation Technology Venture 1, 2, 3, and 4. And all of this is to complement the financing ecosystem. So, Mr. Heng, Electronic I mentioned here, first company, right? But as you move along to do commercialization of research, and I mentioned just now, venture capital is only 3% in this in the US. Funding of 3% of all new startups. It cannot be the only financing option for entrepreneurs. So in 1997, MITI, because at that point in time, MTDC was under the auspices of MITI. MITI went to the government and proposed two funds to complement the venture capital operation, which is the CRDF, Commercialization of Research and Development Fund, and the TAF, which is the Technology Acquisition Fund. So the CRDF now is available to complement the financing option for entrepreneurial activity in this country. But if you see this ecosystem, this is still a far cry from the earlier ecosystem that I showed you. Okay? So this is still developing. Right? So we still have to move ahead and dream and think big and innovate. So by 1999, we talked to UKM, we talked to UPM and said, let's consider a place where companies can come to at universities. Let's consider a joint venture, a collaboration where we can create a place for companies to come to. Because many SMEs are are scared of universities. Not many people dare to look up to a professor because, you know, these are very clever people. You don't want to open your mouth and suddenly you say something stupid, right? So this is always the case. In fact, when I was in university in 1990, well, a long time ago anyway, some decades ago, not just between students and professors, between art student and science student also you have a problem, a barrier. So you can imagine the culture. So we went to the UKM and UPM, and I must say that they are the pioneers in this country. And these are the kind of leaders that you need, like what Mr. Heng says just now. People have to think ahead. And UKM Vice Chancellor then and UPM Vice Chancellors agreed that let's do a pilot program of creating a place where a company can come and locate in universities. Of course, the idea is nice. We will say, you know, once a company is located in university, they will have opportunity to work with the lecturers. They can collaborate, you know, and use the lab equipment. Those are all nice ideas, right? But in reality, well, we will discuss that later. But I will say that for me, UKM and UPM then was the pioneers in this field. They were the universities that dared to take the challenge of let's try something new. Let's try develop a place where companies can come and work within the university environment. And also, as we move along, we say that, okay, we will now have CRDF, TAF, we have centers in universities, but by the year 2000, after the bubble or the bubble of the dot-com era, unfortunately for MTDC, we were also affected. So our relationship with HMQ was stopped, and we did not have a network with the universities, with foreign venture capitalists. So what I want to stress here is that, and I said in my speech this morning, as we move along, the ecosystem networks are very, very important. Very, very important. And MTDC has always put its networking agenda among, you know, the priority whenever we have our programs. Right? So in 2007, we said, look, we have venture capital money. Government gave us 1 billion ringgit non-ICT fund. Let's go and explore what kind of network we can do. And we also then had started the MLSCF, the National Life Science Capital Fund. And also in the 2006, which was the 9th plan, this is where we started to look at and say, look, you know, you can be fund, you can have place, you can have networks, but inherent in the venture capital general partner role is actually to be a coach, to be a mentor. So let's formalize a program where our grant companies are not just given money and left on their own devices. So in 2006, we made a proposal to EPU and said, let's formalize a program where companies will be assisted. Not given crutches, but assisted, facilitated. Bukan scheme payung, some of you know scheme payung. Join the scheme payung, don't want to graduate. Okay? So for us, no. We will assist, facilitate, but when the times come, you have to go on your own. Right? So now, if you can see, the ecosystem has grown. There are now more components in the ecosystem. And then in 2009, we look at the commercialization scenario where we say that this model where universities, RIs, look for established company to license their technology is a very challenging thing. Because why? Sometimes universities develop very high technology, and you go to the market, there is no company in that technology sectors. Or universities are very good in some technology, but all the players in the sectors are traders. This is what had happened with us. University Science Malaysia, until today, is the Center for Tropical Disease Diagnostics. They are the best in terms of developing diagnostics for tropical disease. But in 1993, when we went to the market, we want to find companies in the diagnostics arena. All the companies that we found were traders. So the licensing option here is not an option at all. So learning from this, in 2009 we went to FREEM, and this is again, I have to say congratulations to FREEM for taking the innovation here. We said that why don't we look at your technology, why don't we validate it, why don't we check whether there is market for it, and let's advertise and find who are the people who want to be entrepreneurs. So there is another option in the ecosystem where technologies are validated, and we will see who wants to be an entrepreneur. Whenever I mention this program, CMIC's Graduate Entrepreneurship Program, unfortunately in Malaysia, people equate it with unemployed graduate entrepreneurship. No, okay? And with due respect to all the CMIC's companies in this room, we have never marketed it as unemployed graduate program. This is a graduate entrepreneurship program where I have doctors who resign to be entrepreneurs. We have engineers who resign from glamorous work like TV3 to be entrepreneurs. And we have other types of people who have resigned from their day job to be entrepreneurs. This is what we want. And this is because entrepreneurship is a very tough vocation. If people are not willing to sacrifice their comfort level, they shouldn't be an entrepreneur. So, now we have started with FREEM, we have gone on to have UKM, UPM, UTM, as well as USM and CIA. So, after 20 years working within the ecosystem, we now have 500 companies. And I have mentioned 500 companies, 10 years experience, that's 5,000 years of experience, only if the networks are used to their optimal possibility. And this is always our message to our companies: go and use the MTC network. Because with the networks, you are introduced to new potential clients. With the networks, you use them to open doors. With the networks, like Mr. Heng, you use it to learn from other people's experience. And with the networks, you use it to go overseas. So we have always emphasized the importance of our networks within our ecosystem. Okay? In fact, we even have what we call the Reunites program for MTDC grant recipients, where companies come and share, okay, I have been to Indonesia, what have I learned? How do you register your product in Indonesia? Do you register it under your name, or shall you give it to the agent in Indonesia? What are the risks if you do one or the other? Okay, so these are the things that we have to go as we develop the ecosystem. Now, this company, 500 of them, made up the ecosystem. But if you do not connect them, it is a stand-alone program, a stand-alone company. It does not add value, right? It's like we have MTDC here, and we have MEFCAP on the other side. Both plays a role in the ecosystem, but if it's not connected, it doesn't add value to the whole ecosystem. So again here, I bring up this slide. So you have a lot of things here, right? Government, financial capital, successful examples. These are also the things that MTDC has been working on. And I would like to have the pleasure later to see companies and other globetrotters come up on the scene and show to us that Malaysian companies working with Malaysian universities and RIs can be world-class, best in class, as what Mr. Heng has mentioned this morning. Okay? But if you want to talk about commercialization, sometimes there is too much snake oil in the ecosystem. Snake oil in the sense that too many people talk about commercialization, and you tend to hear that it is like an easy thing to do. There is low-hanging fruits, there is a special formula, there is shortcuts. But as we have seen this morning, there is no such thing. When we talk about commercialization of research, we are talking about a very complex, long-term endeavor. We are talking about a program which involves many, many components in the ecosystem. Driven by the entrepreneur, but interacting with a lot of components in the ecosystem. So commercialization is a complex thing, and if you want to be an entrepreneur, we better start by realizing that it is complex. And this is one of the books that I like to read and refer to from time to time. It was written in 1992. by the National Academy of Engineering, but this ran through until today. Okay? We cannot have a cookie cutter approach in managing innovation. It is actually in contradiction to the word innovation itself. Whatever policy that we put in place in doing and supporting commercialization and innovation, it cannot be cookie cutter, it cannot be set in stone. Because innovation is always a changing process. Entrepreneurship is always a changing thing. You may start with one idea, but as you go along, you may change your idea. So this is what has happened in MTDC as well. We were formed as a VC company to do early stage investment, commercializing results. But we are not what we were formed then, 20 years ago. Because we have to change. We are in innovation ecosystem. It would be incongruent for a company like MTDC to remain status quo when the environment has changed. So we have to change and develop